Hey everyone, so where we left off is we went in and we started creating our raw data using TDM to do some data generation, and we're going to look at that in a few seconds. And again, this could be any tool, right? We're going to try to make this not tool specific, but we're looking at the Medallion Architect for a data lake. The one thing, so we're looking at right here, right, our raw data. What I'm going to do now is we're going to push it into our bronze. Well, why don't we just, yeah, that's fine, the raw integration. So we're going to simulate the idea of bringing in API data, bulk, right? Because this is only good if we have massive amount of data. So we created 30,000 records and 2 JSON files. And we're going to pretend like we're pulling those down from an API because it's going to be the same concept. I may write an API just so you can see that in motion, but not this one, because this is our controlled data, right? And then from there, we're going to just bulk load. I'm going to show you how to do that because it's kind of cool. Bulk load to a S3 bucket. Because if you just try to dump a lot of data, sometimes it errors out because it's too large. So we're going to push a large amount of data into S3 bucket. Let's just say 3 million. And I think that's where we're at, right? So let's look at what we've got so far. And then eventually this will go into bronze, right? So our end goal is to go to bronze. So we'll create our first bucket as bronze. So let's go do that real quick. Well, let's talk about what we have first. So, and like all my videos, this is unscripted, right? So you get what you get, which is kind of cool in a way because we're kind of working through this. It's better than a lot of videos I see out there where people have it prepped and they're using perfect CSVs and things like that. And that doesn't really work in the real world. All right, so what we have is we have 2 files. I'm just going to close all this. Now, I would tell you it was a pain in the butt to get this to work because there was so much data to get this exported. So let's look at our data first, and then we'll talk about that. So in our first table, we have details. We have an ID, we have a name, a description, and details. Now, I could link another file and make this embedded JSON, which I wished I have done. But for 30,000, I'm not really care too much about that. Now, if you're on a Mac, this tool, the easiest way I found was to export it, just save as JSON. Okay. The downside, if you did from JSON here, which I tried, it didn't work. Or not from JSON, but export to JSON. It didn't work because it was limited of how many records you could actually export. And that was really cumbersome. So with saying that, it was just easier just to do it this way. Now, if you're on a Windows machine, you may have you may have to kind of fight to get that to work. But, because truthfully, you should be able to go for, what is it? JSON, path. So that's going to save it to a JSON. And what I don't like is this array wrapper. I couldn't get around that because it's so large without array wrapper. Now, when I did that, the downside is, let me take my cap blocks off. Remember, we've got 30,000 roughly. So if I run this, here's 30,000. And if I run this, this doesn't give you all 30,000. So if we open it here, it's probably going to make me out of a liar this time. What did it? Okay, so maybe this tool did. So I was trying to do it on Windows. The question is, yeah, okay, so that did kind of work. So we're going to steal this because I don't want that array wrapper around it. So I'm just going to say Control A. Let's see if Visual Studio Code can handle this because I want to save this to a file. And we're just going to say File, New. And we'll let it figure out that it's JSON. And it did. Okay, cool. So there's 30,000. Sweet. All right, so I'm going to go over here and delete this one because that's a little bit cleaner. The reason I say it's cleaner is because I don't want it array-based. Notice if you don't use this little command here, it puts little square brackets around it, and it kind of makes that an array. And that gets kind of cumbersome to loop through. And if you have that problem, not a big deal. Just bring it in. I was trying to, so details. I think that's the one that has, yeah, see how it's got the brackets around it? So I don't really like that one. So we're going to get rid of this one. And we can always create another one, not a big deal. But we're going to save this as our details. So save as details. And is there anything in this data folder? That's where I stuck a recording in there. let's create a new folder on our desktop, and we'll call this demo data files. Okay, there we go. And we'll save the details in there. So let's go get the other one. I'm just going to copy and paste this. If you don't know these commands, this is Microsoft SQL. Just, you can look it up. It's not too hard. So this is our metrics table. Now, metrics table, if you watch the other video, I kind of digress trying to get these numbers a little bit realistic because I want to do some, basically some data science type function on this, right? And see if we can get some good logic coming out of this, some good business logic. What I didn't want was my max to be shorter than my min and my value to be higher than my max. It's okay. I was trying to also get it lower than, make sure it wasn't lower than my min. So make sure it was in between this period. And our date time is random. I used a birthday for that. The only thing I wish I did was put milliseconds in there, but that's okay just for this example. You'll get it. That piece is not rocket science. So I'm going to say run. And then we're going to double click into that. So I will say Mac is a lot easier to do this on the Windows machine. This was very cumbersome. We don't have 30,000. Oh, you know what? We're not, because it's not a single line. Duh. Okay, that's fine. So let's grab this. But my ID should be 30,000. It is. Okay, cool. All right. So let's bring this over to here. Let's do file, new text file. Let's paste that in. Now, if any of this is moving too fast for you, the good thing about a video, you can slow it down, or you can always just ask me. We're going to call this metric values. Okay, and I'm using all lowercase on purpose. You'll know why later. So let's go ahead and close those, because now the goal is we have these, right? We'll just grab one. And this Helen here should have some metrics to go with it, and that should match Helen. Okay, so kind of cool. Now, but there's no relationship, right? They're just files. So what we've got to do now, we're going to close SQL Server because we're pretty much done with it. I kind of just used it as a test bed, not a big deal. So let's close it. That was just to fake our raw data, right? Our LZ. So our LZ is raw, our create fake data. Now for you, it's probably going to be an API that you're calling. That's just a massive amount of data. Because again, a data lake doesn't make sense if you don't have a lot of data. At that point, it's just simple processes, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to create a bronze.